doing this are nuts. You created chaos, and a lot of Americans have been destroyed by your illegal immigration policy, and all you want to talk about over there are the cops. Senator Schumer, you blame me, I blame you. Has anybody mentioned Laken Riley lately?
And I think that just gives you a little bit of a preview of what Democrats may be up against, what Republican leaders may be up against when it comes to getting their conference on board for these kinds of reforms. You know, Speaker Mike Johnson has a really narrow majority in the House of Representatives, and it's not clear that House Democrats are going to be with them on the reforms that Senate Democrats may be moving forward with. So there's so many moving pieces right now, and it's just important to underscore that even if they get a deal on this underlying government funding bill today and into Monday, there's still a lot of work to do on the DHS bill.
Yeah. Well, let's hope they're having a wonderful lunch, that no one is feeling hangry, and they're all feeling quite conciliatory and able to move forward on this. Lauren Fox, thank you so much. We know that you'll be digging up the news today. The shutdown threat happening as the DOJ releases all of its remaining Jeffrey Epstein documents, millions in all, and as we learn, a civil rights investigation has been opened by the DOJ into the shooting death of Alex Preddy. A lawmaker is going to join us to discuss that ahead.
If they ain't fighting about one thing, they're fighting about something else. They're not getting nothing done, really, for the American people no more. Too much squabbling. Too much squabbling going on.
It's like at this point, this is all surrounding Senator Lindsey Graham. He's the only guy that's holding this up. He says the White House is actually not happy with him because of it. He calls it a bad deal. What do you think? Is it?
No, actually, I don't think it's a bad deal. Basically, the idea is Democrats have lots of objections over ICE. But I think they have learned a lesson, but shut down. And they are open to the idea of funding everything else but the Department of Homeland Security, and then maybe even having a stopgap, couple of week funding of the Department of Homeland Security, and moving on and not shutting the government down. So when Lindsey Graham came up with this concern about senators who had been targeted by Jack Smith in that investigation, it was one of these things that whenever the government shuts down, a vast majority of Americans wants it to open up. And it's the party that attaches conditions to reopening the government that says you can't open the government until I get what I want. They're the ones who lose.
Yeah, you're talking
so
about
now I
Arctic
think
frost
nobody
here.
wants to lose this except Lindsey Graham.
Yeah, it's a completely separate issue. It's the Arctic frost issue that he wants tucked back into this situation. Let's put up on the screen really quickly for our viewers to understand exactly what's on the table here. This is what Democrats are asking for. This is their demands. They want to end roving patrols for ICE. They want to establish a uniform code of conduct throughout law enforcement and also allow states to investigate these deaths. And they want to ban masks and mandate body cams on ICE. And, you know, the thing is, if all of this goes through, Byron, the Senate and the House are going to have, 2 weeks to figure out all of this, whether they can agree on these demands. I mean, how much of this is, you think, even doable in 2 weeks?
Certainly not all of it. I think they would probably end up pushing that again, passing another 2-week funding measure or something like that. I mean, some of these are going to make a lot of sense to the American people. I think, body cams have been a pretty big success with police forces around the country. Police forces are pretty happy with them because they usually the actual video evidence usually ends up supporting the police. A lot of people didn't think that was going to work out that way, but it did. So I think the same would be true with ICE. On the other hand, basically crippling the way ICE operates is not something that the administration can accept. So my guess is Democrats might get a little bit of this, but not all of it.
Something else that the Senator Lindsey Graham is hell-bent on is ending sanctuary cities. That's another part of the reason he's holding all of this up. And the president wants that too. He's asked Congress to end sanctuary cities, which I'm not sure Congress can do. They can certainly withhold funding from sanctuary cities if they're not playing ball with federal authorities. And I ask you whether that's a good idea because this week, Tom Homan said something really interesting in his press conference that he gave for Minneapolis. He said that the sheriff's departments, local law enforcement, may work with federal authorities. He didn't say they would. He said may. So it's really up to them. And that's still the question. That's still up in the air. are these folks going to work with ICE or not? So should Congress look into perhaps withholding funding from places that don't work with law enforcement, federal agents?
Yeah, well, as far as Minneapolis itself is concerned, it's really not clear what's going to happen. Tom Homan suggested they were talking about this. Maybe the Hennepin County authorities would cooperate with ICE, but they don't right now. The governor, Tim Walz, made clear that in the state prison system, they actually do honor ICE detainers. So that's a different situation. But as far as sort of hardcore sanctuary jurisdictions are concerned, certainly all Republicans want that to end. President Trump wants it to end. If Congress tried to do something, I'm sure all the sanctuary jurisdictions would raise constitutional objections, saying they have a constitutional right to not help ICE. So we don't know how that's going to turn out. But that's an issue that Republicans are going to keep pursuing, because you've seen, we know it comes down to it. The Battle of Minneapolis is kind of like a battle over sanctuary jurisdictions
It is.
in that policy.
Absolutely. Well, that's the whole point of what we're watching right now on the Hill. It's not so much about the government shutting down. It's about how much Democrats are going to get away with in terms of reforming ICE and Homeland Security. What is ICE going to look like when they're done with all of this? Byron, great to see you. Have a good
Thank you,
weekend.
Asher.
A judge takes the death penalty off the table for accused CEO killer Luigi Mangione. Paul Morrow joins us to tell us how that happened. Plus this.
I think people believe there should be. I think people believe you should come to the country legally, and if you don't, there should be some penalty for that. I don't think they want to abolish ICE.
It is a warning to the left with loud calls to abolish ICE. That's dividing Democrats now. Former RNC.
How did that guy that shot that guy in the back, or shot him in the back of the head or something, I think they said he had a animal rifle, something like you would use towards putting animals to sleep. It really wasn't no big heavy gun, not like a 9mm or even a 40 cal, whatever. But to have that on camera and to get them to take the death penalty off, that's another mockery to our laws, I think. I sure do. I mean, you can say whatever you want to say, but I think it's a mockery.
Privileges and extra freedoms, and she's the one that has all the evidence. She is a convicted pedophile who was trafficking these young girls, and because of his actions, she is definitely not going to testify against the president, because he has said publicly he has the power to pardon her. So you know, all of that that's witness tampering in my opinion. When you take the only witness, or certainly the only one convicted along with Jeffrey Epstein, take them out of their situation and put them in a more comfortable detention center with all kinds of privileges, that's obviously influencing that person's willingness to cooperate with Congress or with any prosecution.
I also want to get your reaction, Congressman, to CNN's MJ Lee reporting that she had spoken to some survivors, some Jane Does, who said that they found their names in these files.
Yeah. Yeah, they've done a very sloppy job in terms of putting things together. They just do dumps. You know, we've had more cooperation in a more professional manner from the Epstein estate when they give their documents. They stack them up. They say these were the ones that we think are most helpful. That's not the way the redactions are being done or the information is being provided by the Department of Justice. They just do a dump. And this is a 3 million document dump. So you know, unfortunately, because of the sloppy way that they're doing this, and look, there are over 1,000 people. There's 100,000 people at DOJ, but there are 1,000 people who are doing these redactions and putting this information together. You think it wouldn't have taken them 7 months to do it, and you would think that they would have done a better job at this.
Congressman, you recently voted to hold former President Clinton in contempt, and Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi suggested that any proceedings against the Clintons should wait until the full release of those files. Now that they're out there, what should happen next regarding the former president?
That's a fair request that we get all the evidence and delay that. But so President Clinton had an opportunity. So I voted against contempt on Hillary Clinton because
Right.
there was not a shred of evidence in all of our files that she had anything to do with this. But however, there were several instances where President Clinton may have had an opportunity to observe. You know, he was on a flight with Maxwell. He was also spent some time with Epstein. So the committee felt that he may have some information that might be helpful in our investigation. And there's no allegation that he's done anything wrong, but he did have an opportunity to observe on several occasions. So that's why I think most of the members on the committee voted to hear from him and to have him come in and answer questions.
So what comes next on the Oversight Committee?
Well, we've got 3 million documents to go through. We've got a small staff. We're going to have to expand that. You know, it's maybe a half dozen people that have been vetting these documents, at least at the first level, and then passing them on to members of Congress so that we can review. So, but a 3 million document dump is going to keep us busy for a while. We'll try to get through it as quickly as possible.
Before we go, Congressman, I did want to ask you about the current funding fight and
Why couldn't they, since AI is supposed to be so smart, how come they can't engineer some sort of an app that would go through that paperwork and let AI give it certain signals to go by? This is what you're going to be looking for. You're going to be looking for this name. You're going to be looking for this name. You're going to be looking for this area. You're going to be looking for that area. Why can't they invent something to where it would speed up the process? Same way with counting the votes. To me, this is all illegitimate whenever it comes to being able to keep a absolute accurate profile in the counting the votes, who's dead, who's alive. I mean, you may be saying, well, you're putting a lot on AI. Well, AI knows a lot. And it don't forget. Okay? And if somebody was to engineer some sort of an app to go on all these voting booths, we could actually, and I've made mention of this before, we could actually get to the point that we could vote with our phones and do it authentically and legitimately to the degree that people wouldn't have to stand in line for hours and hours and hours at a time just to be able to voice their opinion towards who they wanted to be president versus who they didn't want. Or as far as that goes, you could probably create an app that would do state and local government as far as that goes. Why we're not using these tools for the benefit of the people, I don't know. There you go. There's that's an animal gun. It ain't really a rifle. I think it shoots at 22. It's not a big bullet, I don't think. But to let that guy get away with not getting a death sentence, that's unfair to all the CEOs out there, regardless whether they be a CEO of insurance or CEO of whatever. And it's also a mockery, I believe, to our laws, especially if he done what he done in a state that capital punishment is acceptable. That's my opinion. Didn't cost you nothing for my opinion, but that's my opinion. We want to reward people for doing bad, in a sense, and we want to punish people, or let me get this right. We want to punish people for doing good, and we want to reward people for doing bad. It don't make no sense. It don't make no sense in seeing how that this government is twisted and turned, and don't know. Basically, its tail from a hole in the ground.
Before. Federal law supports our request that we proceed first, and outright to a speedy resolution of this case would be severely compromised should the federal trial proceed first. So they want to go for the murder charge. As you pointed out, murder is typically a state charge, not a federal charge. Who do you think wins in this case, the state or the feds?
I think the way things are going, I would not be surprised at all if the state gets there first. First of all, I think there's a good chance that the prosecutors in the federal case will appeal. That'll slow things down significantly. Second of all, in the state cases just in general move more quickly. They are further along. But I will say that the judge in the federal case, this was brought up in court today, and she said, I have not heard from the state, and as far as I'm concerned, that is irrelevant to the current proceedings, and she set the date that you said. I have to tell you, John, to have both of these going on at once simultaneously is extremely rare. Generally, somebody makes a call someplace along the line, but so far, the judge indicated today in court that that has not happened. But as you and I have been pointing out, generally murders, state case. And so if I had to guess, I'd put my money on the state case going first.
All right, well, we'll keep an eye on this and see where it goes. Good to have you on the case. We'll let you get inside and warm up that nose. Paul Morrow for us. Paul, thank you. Appreciate it.
It is very cold over there.
Sure is.
The White House is cracking down on fraud and corruption and putting a spotlight on hospice care fraud happening in L.A. William Lajeunesse has more now from Los Angeles. Hi there.
Listen to this.
Aisha, hospice fraud costs taxpayers $200 million a year, and nowhere is it worse than here. Ghost patients, sham companies, corrupt doctors. They bill for care they never provide, and owners steal Medicare numbers from seniors who don't even know they're on hospice till they need real care, but can't get it because the hospice owns their Medicare number.
They're human traffickers. They're trafficking beneficiaries.
Hospice fraud in L.A.
Hospice is crazy here. You've got hospice that's grown 7-fold in the last 5 years. They represent about $3.5 billion of fraud, we believe, just in L.A. County.
We are ground zero for the scammers.
Sheila Clark says hundreds of L.A. hospices falsely bill the government for unnecessary care, often cycling patients from one provider to another.
It's a non-ending benefit. That hospice is making, $4,000 a month, indefinitely.
Patients are bought and sold like trading cards. Ads tell recruiters to post up at busy shopping centers or senior living addresses to knock on doors. They promise patients walkers, wheelchairs, and can earn $300 for any senior over 62 they sign up, sick or not.
Their entire job is to go and find seniors that they can get money for.
Those patients and their Medicare numbers are then sold to providers.
A Medicare MIB number is more lucrative than a credit card.
How much money are federal taxpayers being taken for?
Millions, billions.
These are Russian Armenian gangs, mafia, that are leading a lot of these efforts, we believe, have been able to corrupt and work with doctors who are willing to lie.
If you don't have the position, you don't have anything.
One doctor billed the government $120 million in a single year, claiming to oversee 1,900 patients. With almost 2,000 hospice agencies, LA County has more than 36 states combined, and 30 times more than either Florida or New York.
18% of the whole country's home health care billing is coming out of Los Angeles County. How is that possible?
And take a look at this map, a cluster of 287 hospice providers in a 2-mile radius, some in strip malls, unmarked buildings, even a wrecking yard and vacant lot.
All of it is just paperwork. I could fill that out in Kazakhstan if I want. And get a hospice license waiting for me.
It's real human life, and it has consequences.
The problem, says Clark, once a beneficiary's number is assigned to a hospice, that patient can't get care anywhere else, including a hospital.
We need to listen to these people when they say, I've been scammed.
Now, Governor Newsom filed a civil rights complaint against Dr. Oz for unfairly targeting the Armenian community. However, the governor's own auditor and prosecutors say the Armenian organized crime is involved with Medicare fraud. As for California, auditors also told Governor Newsom 4 years ago that lax state controls created this mess. It did prompt a moratorium on new hospices, and since then the state has revoked about 280 licenses. Aisha?
William, great investigative reporting there. Thank you for doing that for us.
Unbelievable.
Legendary comedic actress Catherine O'Hara has died. She was known for her iconic roles from Kevin's mom in the Home Alone series to Moira Rose in Schitt's Creek. The Canadian-born O'Hara died at her home in Los Angeles after what her agency says was a brief illness. She's been in the comedic business for a long time. She was an alum of the Second City Theatre Company in Toronto, Canada, where I first had the pleasure of meeting her in the late 1970s. Wow. She was also one of the creators of the sketch show SCTV. Catherine was just 71 years old. We'll be praying for her and her family. We'll be right back.
That's bad news for her and her family.
Assess that development.
As you said a moment ago, we haven't actually seen the documentation for these charges, but Lemon's lawyer, Abby Lowell, told CNN that he's being charged with 2 federal crimes: conspiring to violate someone's constitutional rights and violating the FACE Act. What do those entail?
Well, I mean, the conspiracy to violate someone's rights can be as simple as coordinating with someone to impede their ability to exercise a right, including their right to exercise their religion. The FACE Act includes a prohibition on intimidating or threatened conduct in.
See, that's what these churches around here need to be charged with, that kicked me out of their churches and told me that I wasn't welcome. Or, let me put it this way. They told me that I was welcome, but the doctrine that I was preaching was not welcome. First Baptist, Martin, Tennessee. Central, Martin, Tennessee. Couple churches in Union City. 1 or 2 churches in Troy. 1 or 2 churches over here in Greenfield. 1 or 2 churches in Milan. I mean, I can go on and on with names and places of what went on. It may have went on 15, 20, 25, 30 years ago. But I'm just telling you, under the FACE Act, which is a federal crime, they're not supposed to stop a person from being able to go into a church and worship. Even though it's private, it's open for the public. And any and everybody's supposed to be able to walk into a church building if they want to and sit down and listen to the preacher, as long as they're obedient, as long as they don't cause disturbance, as long as they're very attentive, don't go in there making a fuss about nothing. Just go in there and sit down and listen to what's being said. Church right over here in Union City. As you're going into Union City from Martin, on the right-hand side, just by the time, it ain't too, it's first red light, put it that way. Guy told me, and this was after I gotten banded from Central because of Randy Brundage. I said, well, what about me just coming here as a member? And he thought about it for a minute. He said, well, we can't have that neither. I said, why is that? He goes, because you liable to become a member and become a fixed, dedicated, loyal church member. And before long, the next thing you know, you'll be wanting to teach in a Sunday school class. And you'll be brushing off on a little bit of your doctrine gradually if you was to ever get in that position. I ain't going to mention the guy's name. I'm pretty sure a lot of people respect him, but I'm just telling you what was told to me beginning in the phases of 1989, that Dennis, you're welcome, but your doctrine that you're preaching is not. So basically, these people that done that was against peace and utopia. Not counting the fact that they was basically in violation. I got several churches in Jackson, Tennessee that banded me from going to Jackson, Tennessee. And some of those churches I was actually a member to. If you can believe that. Kick him out. What are you going to kick him out for? Well, he's been after this too long. He's dead set. Obviously, we're not going to be able to turn him around. I'm speaking for them now. we're not going to be able to turn him around towards what he believes. So there ain't no need for him to come in here. And besides that, if we don't watch, he's going to be influential, and he'll start influencing other people and believing the same interpretation out of the Bible. Kick him out. Don't let him in here. Wow, that's a church? I thought a church was like a hospital. If somebody feels a need towards having to go to a church. And that's one thing that I did admire about the Catholic Church whenever my son was involved in the Catholic administration before he got killed last year, is that according to my son, the church is always open. It don't matter if it's 1 o'clock at night, 2 o'clock at night, 3 o'clock at night, and there's always somebody on call to be able to listen or take note in what's going on. And the reason why that they do this is because a lot of times, let's say a couple gets into a squabble, a disagreement, and the next thing you know, somebody calls the police, and the next thing you know, you got a record, a domestic abuse or whatever, and one thing can lead to another to the degree that you take something small and turn it into like a molehill. Take a molehill, turn it into a mountain. The Catholic Church believes that a lot of that, I ain't going to call it mealy-mouthy stuff that really could be worked out. They believe that it does need to be worked out with the clergyman, and they think that if they keep the door open, and it don't matter if you're a member or non-member, that the opportunity will always be there for a dispute with either a member or a non-member to be able to go to the Catholic Church and possibly seek some sort of marriage counseling. That way you don't have to take it before a magistrate. That way it don't have to have a record pertaining to who said what to who and who picked up whatever and thrown it at the other one and hit them or done whatever, unmistakably or unintentionally. That I like about the Catholic Church. I sure do. And I know that there's some really, really good, sincere Catholic people out there that truly believes in the Lord Jesus Christ and lives their faith every day.
In eastern part of North Carolina, 1980, a March storm, 25 inches in Elizabeth City, and there was a December 1989 storm that was around Christmas Eve. That was 20 inches of snow all around the Cape Fear area. So, yeah, those are the biggest ones that we've seen in recent memory. This could be a top 10 if we see over 12 inches of snow, especially eastern part of North Carolina. For Charlotte, we're going for about 6 to 8 right here.
Yeah, that for Charlotte is a significant amount of snow, to your point. And again, the city infrastructure, this is not like, upstate New York where they have like hundreds of plows and a bunch of folks that are ready to jump on it and salt the streets and sidewalks. That's not the case in Charlotte. One thing too, Bob, having lived down south, with the big cold that's also expected, pipes bursting could be an issue out that way too. So it's a multifaceted threat that you have to kind of take into account.
Yeah, and just to give you a perspective, the average amount of snowfall that Charlotte gets per season is about 3 inches. We're probably going to get that in 3 hours by tomorrow afternoon, right? So a whole season's worth of snowfall in a day. That's the forecast for the Queen City right now. Listen, we're looking for 1 to 2 inches of snow per hour. The I-77 corridor, and then bending up the Horn in the Raleigh and the Norfolk as that band migrates from west to east. So we know the heavy snow is going to be out there, Michael. We know the cold air is going to be out there as well. I want you to experience, Mike, this morning heading in from New Jersey into New York City for your day at work. What was it like today with that cold?
Let me tell you something, Bob. Walking into work, because I love my walks, it was just bitterly cold. My nose, my mouth, every bit of skin that was exposed to the elements was freezing cold by the time I walked into our building here. So New York City, it's so cold that overnight lows tonight, especially at JFK, could bottom out near record low territories. Bob, that does not take into account the wind chill as well.
Tell me what the Hudson River looks like. I know you see it every day also, and I've seen pictures. I've not been home in about 2 weeks.
Oh.
What does it look like? Does it look like just floating icebergs?
That is exactly it. I thought I heard someone yell, "Iceberg straight ahead," because that's exactly what it looked like. And for that reason, in New York City, by the way, where this morning we bottomed out at 9 degrees, the New York City ferry service actually suspended service, to your point, Bob, because of all of the huge patches of floating ice on the river.
Wow, it's amazing to see something like that. Look at the other numbers outside there right now. At Green Bay, feels like 1 degree. Detroit, your hometown there, Michael, 8. That's the wind chill. And we're starting to get into the warmer part of the afternoon now, and you're still struggling to get above 10 as a wind chill.
Yeah, it is going to be freezing cold, not just today, but also tomorrow morning. You're looking at lows at 5 in Detroit, Marquette 13, Minneapolis below 0 there. And Bob, you factor in those wind chills or the winds to the actual temperatures, and check that out. How about Boston at 12 below?
No.
Or you want to? We should fly over to Dayton, Ohio, there, Bob. How about 16 below 0 is what it'll feel like tomorrow morning?
No, I'm good. I'm all right because I think we're going to get close to that around the North Carolina mountains. The wind chills tomorrow night, Michael, and through Sunday in the North Carolina mountains, minus 22 to minus 25. That's the forecast. And we've got cold weather alarms all around the board. I mean, we've got the cold weather, what do they call extreme cold warning?
Yep.
Isn't that what they call it now? It used to be called a wind chill warning. Now it's extreme cold warning. That's what we have in place for where I'm located right now in Charlotte, where the wind chills, not just the snow, wind chills tomorrow night. If you're out there playing it, it's going to be like 0 to minus 5, even minus 10 when you get a little farther out towards like Gastonia, Lincolnton, those areas, Hickory. Your wind chills are going to get down to about minus 10, Michael.
And it's wild too, Bob, because it's not like we're going to see a big temperature rebound. You're looking at Baltimore's forecasted lows, and you're waking up tomorrow at 8, 14 degrees on Sunday morning. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Bob, the average is 25, but tonight through Wednesday morning, every single day is below the average. So it's not like we have some big, giant thawing or warm-up that's going to be taking place.
Oof, where we are, I mean, when you see temperatures that aren't going to get to even the average, that's New York City 21. There it is. All right, Michael, we've got the cold air locked and loaded over the Great Lakes. Let's head towards Chicago, and I know you just heard this as well. O'Hare is currently in a ground stop because of that lake effect snow that's belting into interior sections of Chicago right now.
Yeah, that's exactly it there, Bob. Chicago O'Hare International Airport, hubbed, of course, for United Airlines. They are in that ground stop program because of not just snow, but also because of the ice. I also want to bring to your attention that there's departure delays that are on average at least 30 minutes, and those delays are increasing. So, Bob, you start talking about the world's most connected airport, that being Chicago O'Hare International, and it has ripple effects through the system. So although I think there's a hub for United at Newark Liberty, when you can't use Chicago as a landing site or perhaps a flyover or to stop off at or to take off, that's going to have trickle-down effects.
Yeah, for everyone around the Midwest, and it's certainly, right? And you're looking even around Dallas. And when you put that on the board, you see the light snow in here impacting you. Visibility, that's another thing. It's a mile right now, right there at O'Hare.
Yeah, so visibilities, and of course the fact that we have cloud bases at only 1,600 feet. What you're looking at here is really interesting. So this is where they're doing de-icing, and then you can see the planes waiting on the runways there to perhaps take off. Unfortunately, Bob, it's because of this right here, the lake effect snow that we're seeing. If you're not familiar with it, this is where O'Hare is. It's just basically west and northwest of the city of Chicago. We'll check in on to see what Midway looks like, but definitely not the best travel day, that's for sure, in Chicago.
No, you've got that mid-level impulse, which is sliding right down through the Ohio Valley. That's actually the nexus for our coastal storm that's about to form. As that slides south, it disrupts the wind field. So now instead of being due north to south for Chicago, it's bleeding in from the north-northeast to ultimately the northeast. And that looks like it's almost, east-northeasterly because you've got the winds coming right off the lake. And when that happens, the snow itself begins to fall apart just a bit. It's not as well organized, simply because it doesn't have as much water to work with, and it's disrupted the flow. But that's going to come back into play once that shortwave moves away. The winds align themselves perfectly again for more winter storm warnings due to the lake effect snow, even carrying over till after midnight tonight to tomorrow morning.
Yeah, and I actually think, Bob, that there's a possibility that lake effect snow might actually not really significantly taper until like midday tomorrow Chicago time, so 11, maybe noonish or so, before things begin to really wind down. And Bob, by the time everything is said and done, you can see the bullseye right here, that hot pink coloring, 8 to 12 inches of snow right around the southern bend there of Lake Michigan, which I've just found out a moment ago is only 26.7% ice covered at this point.
Oh, that's it? Well, that's going to change around a little bit with this Arctic air over place. But so far, what was it, 0.2 inches of snow being recorded at Chicago's O'Hare. But we know that's going to pick up as that snow belt is going to be waffling in and out over the next few.
Once more, the ice hadn't accumulated, hardened up, and because of it, it turns it into basically a snow machine. The only thing I can say is open up your cabinets, let your water drip. Take extra precaution. If you got lines that's exposed to the outdoor, take something and lay against it to help keep the wind off of it. It makes a big difference that way. And another thing to take under consideration, people's pocketbooks are already strained in America pertaining to COVID and all this other stuff that people went through, especially your retirees, especially those that's on a fixed income. This is only going to add insult to injury pertaining to people being able to manage properly. And it will have a trickle-down effect to the degree that more car payments will be late, more credit card payments will be late. People will have to make decisions towards either staying warm or canceling out on their prescription drugs because they ain't got the extra money, because their extra money went towards the utilities. It's a hardship whenever the weather turns like this. It's a hardship. And I think our government should take that under advisory in trying to help those that is on a fixed income, that maybe they can offer some sort of help with those that's suffering so bad. I know I'm suffering. I know that I've had some problems with my dental people and wanting to overcharge me $2,600 that, according to my dentistry insurance, I wasn't supposed to pay but $35. They were saying something about an overlap, that what they agreed to as far as being locked into an agreement, that they was basically passing the buck down to me to the degree that the provider write-off that they already agreed with toward becoming in sync with your insurance company. They do that so that they can stay in line and still get the business, but then if you don't watch them, they'll try to make it up toward charging the patient extra. And in my case, they made me sign some sort of a flexible financing thing, and according to the financing thing, they charge up to 33%. 33% of what they're going to be charging. That's almost like a loan shark, where you loan somebody $1 and you get back $1. I thought loan sharking was against the law. To charge somebody 33%, that's reaching right on out there, ain't it? But to think that they're going to try to make up the difference on the agreement that they've already done made toward being in network with my insurance company, in charging me the difference, they call it a provider write-off. is wrong and should be illegal. Should be looked upon as being fraud or bad ethics or something. I don't know. Because once more, you got people that's on these fixed incomes. They can't get out here and make extra money to be able to make up the difference on whenever they get hit with extra utility bills or extra medical bills. This thing's in a big trouble, I'm going to tell you. It's in a big trouble in lots of big ways. Good luck to all of us. God bless America. God bless our troops. And God bless our endeavors towards which way we go from this moment on. Because I guarantee you we're going to need it. We're definitely going to need it.